In this video, I'm going to show you how to search and scrape data from Yahoo News. As you probably know, Yahoo News is a news aggregation service that collects content from various sources and presents them to you, the consumer, in one location for easy viewing. They also produce their own content as well. This is similar to what you'd get through the News API. By the way, if you want to learn more about the News API, you can click this link above. At the end of this video, I'm going to share some tips and tricks on how to generate better search results, as well as some quirks with the Yahoo News data in general. Now, without further ado, let's get started. I'm going to be using a Jupyter notebook for this project, but feel free to use whatever IDE or code editor that you wish. To start, we'll import some standard Python libraries: array, CSV, from time import sleep. We'll also need to import requests and BeautifulSoup. If you don't have these already, you can install requests with pip install requests and BeautifulSoup with pip install bs4. Next, navigate to the page news.yahoo.com. At the top of the page, there's a search bar. Type in the phrase iPhone 12 leaked, then click on the Search News button. You'll see a list of search results all related to the search criteria I entered. The articles come from all kinds of sources, including some sources from Yahoo. What I'm going to demonstrate in this video is how to scrape everything you see on this page related to our search. Take a look at the URL. It shows news.search.yahoo.com/search, and then that's followed with some query parameters marked with a P. So copy the URL and then go back to the code. Paste the URL into your code editor and assign it to the template variable. Then replace the search phrase with curly braces. This will enable us to use string formatting to insert whatever term or phrase we want into this template for the news search. Now, use the template to create a URL using the phrase iPhone 12 leaked and assign it to the variable URL. Before we create a GET request, we need to set the request headers. To get the headers, go back to the Yahoo News webpage, right-click on the page, and then click Inspect. Developer tools will open up on the right-hand side or lower side of the screen. Locate and click the tab across the top called Network. Then refresh the page. You'll see a bunch of network activity populating the list. Often the network filter will be set to XHR, so go ahead and select All if it's not already selected. Click on the row that starts with the word Search. A new pane will open up on the right, and one of the tabs is called Headers. Scroll all the way down to the bottom and you'll see a section called Request Headers. You could copy this set of headers and use it in your request by converting it to a Python dictionary. However, I would recommend that you just copy and paste the headers template I have in the video description. I just wanted to point out where the headers can be found for future reference. After you copy and paste the headers from the video description, create a GET request with the requests library passing in the URL and the headers you just created. Next, use BeautifulSoup to parse the response text using the default HTML parser. Now that we have the raw HTML, back to the web page. Locate an article and then right-click, then click Inspect. The Developer tab will open up on the right and you'll see the HTML that underlines the web page. As you scroll up and down the list, the related elements will be highlighted on the web page. The first thing that we need to do is find the container for the news articles. If you navigate visually to the outermost element, you'll notice a div tag that has a few classes, and one of them is called News Article. We can use this to identify all of the news articles on the page. Use the find method on the soup object to find all div tags with a class name of News Article. This will return a list of elements. Assign this to the cards variable. To prototype this model, we'll take the first card in this dataset and assign it to the card variable. Now, let's start identifying the pieces of the article that we're going to scrape. Back to the web page. Fortunately, the data on this page is really easy to identify. The header is an H4 tag and it has a class name of sTitle. The source is a span tag with the class name of sSource. The date is a span tag with a class name of sTime, and the description is a p tag with a class name of sDescription or SDESC. The only other thing we need is the URL, which we can get from an a tag. Now, the original URL is actually buried in a bunch of Yahoo News search stuff, as you can see, but I'll show you how to extract that in just a moment. Now back to the code. Let's use BeautifulSoup to extract all the elements we identified on the web page using their tag and class names. The time has a bullet character that we need to remove, so use the replace method for that, then use the strip method to remove the white space around the text. Now for the URL. First, get the raw link by finding the A tag. This URL has a lot of quotes and messy encoding. However, you can use the utils.unquote method to clean this up a bit, which you can see here. If you look closely, you'll notice that the real URL actually starts after RU in this Yahoo search URL, and then it ends before the RK parameter. We can use a simple regular expression pattern to extract the real URL from the Yahoo News search version. As a side note, if you aren't familiar with regular expressions, you can check out this very helpful tutorial above. I'll also post a link to an amazing website that I use all the time to test my regular expression patterns. Select the Python option, copy and paste your text into the lower input box, and then write your expression in the upper input box to see what the results will be. With this pattern, we're identifying the group of all characters between the RU equals and the RK terms. Next, use the array.search method to find the real URL by passing in the pattern we just created, then the text we want to search. Then grab group 1, which represents the characters in these brackets here, between RU equals and RK. Now we have an actual link to the article and all of the pieces that we need for our model. The next step is to generalize this model into a function and apply it to all of the articles on the page. Define a function called getArticle that accepts a card argument. Then copy and paste all of the code you created to get the card data. Organize these variables into a tuple, assign it to an article variable, and then return that article variable. Now we can apply the model to all articles on the page. So create an empty list called articles. Then create a set called links. The reason for this link set is that some of the links will show up more than once in a search result. So to avoid getting duplicate results, we'll check to see if we've already collected a URL before we append it to the articles list. For each card and cards, use the getArticle function on the card and assign the result to the article variable. Next, grab the link from the article data that's returned by the function. Check to see if the link is in the link set. If not, add the link to the link set and then append the data to the articles list. We've now extracted all of the articles on the page. I'll show the first 5 records here. The next step is to figure out the pagination. This particular search has multiple pages of search results. The easiest way to handle this on this website is to get the URL or the href property that's buried inside the next A tag, and then create another GET request from that one. Use the soup object to find an A tag with the class of next and then get the href property. This will return the link to the next page. Click on the link and then scroll down. You'll see that we're now on page 2. You can continue this process for all of the pages and then look up the next page until at some point there is no next page. Now that you know how to get to the next page, let's put all the pieces together in a unified set of code. I'm going to reset my notebook because I want to make sure that my namespace isn't being polluted by everything I've done so far. With a fresh slate, copy and paste the imports. Then add the headers. Copy and paste the getArticle function. Next, define a function called getTheNews that accepts a single argument, which is the search term or phrase. Go ahead and add the template, then create the URL. Create an empty list for the articles and then create the link set. Next, let's create the scraping loop. This will mimic the process you use to scrape data from a single page, except you'll be adding the step of finding the next page URL. If you remember, at some point there won't be a next page, so you'll get an attribute error. If this happens, we'll use break to get out of the loop. To avoid getting blocked by spamming the server, add a 1-second delay between each GET request. Finally, save the search results to a CSV file. I want to share a few quick quirks about the data and then some tips and tricks to help you get better search results. First, a few quirks. I've noticed that the number of available articles can change as you page through the data. I'm not sure why this is the case. Also, the same article may appear on multiple websites, and likely the reason is because the author has sold it to multiple sources. And as I told you previously, the same link can appear multiple times in the search results, but this one we've handled already in our code. Now for a few tips and tricks. The best way to get quality results is to make your search specific. For example, if I use the search phrase iPhone 12, I'll get back a ton of results, and a lot of them may not be relevant to what I'm looking for because the search is too generic. Instead, add additional search terms to your search to make the results more relevant. For example, iPhone 12 leaked. You can also narrow your search to specific sources by naming them in your search phrase. For example, iPhone 12 Forbes, to show articles from the Forbes news website. And that, my friends, is how you scrape news data from Yahoo News. I hope you enjoyed this video. If so, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. See you in the next video.